Alright, the one and only calculator problem on this test, using our calculator to evaluate limits. Now, the easiest way to do this is by graphing the calculator. Graphing the functions. So let's look at problem number 35. Go ahead and graph this. So go to y1 and enter sine of x, close your parentheses, and divide it by, in parentheses, 2x, and close it like that. And make sure that you are in radian mode. So hit the mode button, and then instead of degrees, make sure it's in radian. And now let's go ahead and graph it. And let's use a window. Let's just go -1 to +1 for x and y. And you should get a graph that looks like this. And then we can trick our calculator into giving us limits just by tracing really, really close to that limit where we know it's undefined. So we know that because of that 2x right there in the denominator, that we're going to have a hole at our graph. But we can choose x values really, really close. And we can see that the limit from the left and the right is going to the same value. And I just traced to 0.00001, and it told me the corresponding y value was 0.5. So we're going to call this limit 1/2. So let's look at problem number 2 now. Do the same thing. Let's go ahead and graph this. Now in this one, notice we're doing a limit as x goes to infinity. So I chose really big x values to look at. And I just went from 0 up to 10,000. And you can see that this graph looks to be a horizontal line. But it's actually not. It's going up a tiny bit like that. You just can't tell it. And it looks like it's going to some decimal 2.718 something, which actually is a very special number. This graph is actually approaching the limit of the natural number e. But if you told me 2.718, I would totally accept that. So let's look at these last two problems together here. The limit as x goes to pi over 2 from the left and the right of tangent x. Now, later on in this year, you'll be able to do this without a calculator. But for now, let's just go ahead and graph that function tan x. Let's go a window from 0 is less than x is less than pi. And I'm going to go ahead and make my x scale equal to pi over 2. That way when it graphs it, I'll actually be able to see that pi over 2 line in the middle. So go ahead and graph it, and you're going to get a graph that looks something like this. I made my y values -10 to +10. But notice as we approach this from the left, as we approach this from the left, my graph is going up to positive infinity. So I get positive infinity there. And as I approach it from the right, my graph goes down to negative infinity. Now, I know this kind of looks like a 1 over x graph, but it's totally not. So please don't confuse yourself with that. Tangent of x is going to look like that. It's kind of like the weird dancing graph that gets all floopy.